All right, I'm gonna come over here real quick. Starting my backup recording right there. All right, well, hello everybody. I am Mike Ramos, and this is my PLC project for Practicum 1, Dr. O'Leary. So in today's PLC, we're gonna be interviewing, or I'm gonna be working with the English 3 team, the English 3 Advanced Placement team. We have 2 teachers with us for Advanced Placement. We have Shelby Andrews, who is one of the teachers, and then we also have Sarah Silva, who is the other AP English 3 teacher. Great. So let's start off with real quick. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm very interested and excited to hear about how your last unit did. And I hope we can just take some time to go through the plan and see what we've been doing in class and see how our results came out in our assessments, and then make any adjustments if where is possible so we can provide the best student outcomes possible.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you for having us.
Awesome. All right, so real quick, you know, in our PLCs, we want to make sure we have some norms. What norms do you all have in place when you do your PLCs?
Well, we establish being present and engaged. There's no side conversations. We're actively participating and focusing on the task at hand without getting distracted and getting off track. We do want to start on time and end on time because we are very busy. We need to respect everyone's time and just be purposeful in the time that we use. We also encourage open dialogue. We want to share insights, ask questions. We definitely don't want to just make assumptions, but we want to challenge any ideas constructively, just to ensure that we're giving our students the best opportunities for success and not relying on past success.
Okay, great. That's those are some really good norms, and then we'll make sure to follow those norms. Now, we do want to make sure to have some norms for data. We don't want to get into deficit thinking. We want to have some norms for data. What data, do you all have any data norms?
Yeah, so we want to use data to guide our decisions, right? We don't want to place the blame on the students. We don't want to place the blame on the teachers, but how can we just move forward? We also want to ensure that our instructional discussions are data-driven and standards-driven. And then we also want to make sure that we support our observations with student work, assessments, and research-based strategies.
Okay, great. Those are some good points. So let's take a look at the next part of the PLC, and that is our goals for our PLC. What do we want to get out of today's PLC?
So we want to analyze student performance using rhetorical analysis.
Okay, very good. Okay, so rhetorical analysis, that's a good one. That's always definitely tough. It's a tough one for them to take it to the next level.
It's actually the toughest piece of writing we do with our students throughout the year, and it's the piece of writing we spend the most time on throughout the year.
Okay, interesting. And that's going to be very important when we break down the data and see how long we're spending on scaffolding these activities for the kids.
Yeah.
So what I want to do today is, like, as we go through and look at the data, make some informed decisions, we want to be able to see if our lessons align correctly. Are we getting the most bang for our buck? Okay, we want good student outcomes, so we want to see what we're doing good and what we're doing and what we're having trouble with. We'll kind of break it down here on the smartboard and work together to collaborate. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you guys want to pop up on your data sheet, your last assessment on your essays, okay. And this is take 30 seconds if you can. I know you guys already looked at the data. Let's take a look at it again. See where do we have some glows and where do we have some grows?
Well, glows, the students are accurately identifying the rhetorical strategies. They are distinguishing between ethos, pathos, and logos, and they are selecting the evidence that is the strongest. They're able to recognize that. Those are positives. However, there are some grows.
Okay.
Yeah, so for the grows, we tend to find our students relying too much on summary when it comes to their writing, and we need to get them out of that. We've got to move them from summary to analysis.
Okay.
And so they tend to just, it's been something that's been ingrained in them for years and years. And so it feels like at this stage, we're really trying to break that habit of theirs by moving them from summary to analysis. And what that creates is weak commentary and justification from our students. So instead of giving us specific analysis on these rhetorical devices, They're providing us with weak and vague commentary where they're just saying the same things over and over again.
I see.
Yeah.
So that connects
Uh-huh.
to the unit goal.
Okay.
That we do start off with is to function, the function of the rhetorical devices, yes, they can recognize them, but what is the actual function?
I see.
They can identify the rhetorical techniques, but they struggle with connecting it to author's purpose. So we try to start off with really strong anchor texts such as the MLK, Letter from Birmingham Jail, and Sojourner Truth, Ain't I a Woman, because these texts were written with a very specific purpose, and each rhetorical technique was chosen for an intent on the audience, because these are real life circumstances that needed to change. And so we hope to establish that technique and purpose connection a little bit stronger, but that is the focus of what we need to be doing.
Okay, so this is all great. This is great information. So like what I heard is the idea is the connection part. Okay, that's something that maybe we can talk about today. But I think, you guys have some growths in some areas that we can definitely grow on. But I think your glows are really great as well. You guys, half the battle is for them to be able to distinguish it, especially like you said, during the time period. A lot of our kids are already 40, 50 years away from that time period and now live in a different world as we know it. And so for them to identify that, I mean, we're already halfway there. So I think if we just kind of come together, I think we can make some adjustments.
Yeah, for sure. I agree.
Great, awesome. All right, so let's just take a look at the next step of what we want to do. We'll come over here to break down the TEKS. Break down what we're doing. Let me move the chair. Okay, so I learned this in an in-service and something I've been doing for a while now. So let's take a look at the TEK. Let's break down the TEK and deconstruct the TEK. Let's take a look at how we scaffolded this unit. Let's also take a look at some areas of misconceptions or limitations. Here in the limitations, we'll really take a second to look at the grows, where we did not so good in some of those rhetorical essays.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we'll kind of come back and collaborate, and we'll kind of look at the possibilities and the interventions. So the key here and what we want to do is we go through and see where we can get better, we can do the grows, look at those possible interventions, and more importantly is to come back together and we can develop an action plan. Action plan specifically targeting where we can take these kids to the next level, and that's what we want. We want the best student outcomes we can possibly have. So, all right, what is the TEK specifically for this unit?
So our TEK is 9B. And it's saying how, it says analyze how the author's use of rhetorical devices achieves a specific purpose.
Okay, analyze the
Author's use of rhetorical devices.
Okay, sorry, thank you. Okay, let's deconstruct. We've done so many trainings on deconstructing the TEK, and it's probably the strong focus, our main focus. When we kind of move forward, we can refer back to what we need to do. So what is the verb that we're trying to accomplish here?
So our verb's gonna be analyze.
Okay. And analyzing is breaking down the text. More importantly, they like y'all said, they're able to break down the text, but we want to make sure that they're breaking down the text for a specific purpose. So what's the skill that we want to do?
So the skill would be the author's purpose.
Okay. And this is where we're having some issues.
Yes. It's getting them to make that connection with the device and the purpose. Yeah.
Okay. And I know even for myself, like if you don't do a little research behind the era, you're gonna have a little disconnect. So this is a big part of our unit. So let's take some. I wanna know a little bit more about how you scaffolded the unit in particular.
So we started with some foundational skills, so that included, identifying ethos, pathos, and logos.
Okay. Okay, this is a great start.
Yeah, we also had to do the rhetorical situation as well. Students need to understand the rhetorical situation, which encompasses, audience, what do they know about the speaker, the exigence, context, all of that. They need to know all that, information about why this speech is taking place or
Okay.
why this is happening first before they can even go into analyzing the text itself.
I see.
Yeah.
That's good. I think that's a really good start. That's a really good start because that's the key word is understanding that situation.
Yeah.
So you almost can't go any further until you break down that part. So how much time did you guys spend on that?
I would say we spent about 1 to 2 weeks.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, and what's interesting about that phase for students is, we will give them just the prompt before they even go into the speech, and the prompt will give a little bit of information about the speaker and stuff like that, but we make them go way more in depth and figure out just from the little bit of information they got, what all do we know about this speaker and why this speech is taking place before you even read. Just so they can have as much information to go off of as possible. And they're not given the opportunity to research any of that. They just have to go off of that little blurb.
Oh
Figure
wow,
out what
that's
they know.
that's could be very difficult.
Yeah.
And somehow we gotta we'll come together to like really understand how can we accelerate that process. The quicker they can make that connection, the quicker we can probably develop stronger essays.
Yeah.
Oh, what was the next part of your all scaffold?
We then model how to annotate for rhetoric. While we give them the foundational skills, then we model how to identify them. What are the devices that are establishing the pathos or appealing to the pathos, appealing to logos, and establishing the ethos? Where are those devices? Can we name them? Are we using parallelism? Is it antithesis? We name what we can do, but more specifically, what is the technique doing? Is it comparing? Is it contrasting? Is it emphasizing? And then we're connecting those devices to the meaning. Why? Why did the speaker choose this device? Why did the speaker decide to use this factor, this detail, or establish this particular ethos, or appeal to this particular emotion, or appeal to that particular piece of logic?
I think that's great. I can really see your scaffolding your ideas here. And I think you're really building on what the kids need to know. How much time did you all spend on that?
About 1 to 2 weeks.
1 to 2 weeks as well? Okay. So if we take a look here, we're about a month in.
Yeah.
Do you, by chance, like, okay, if we're a month in, I'm kind of interested to see what the data looks like at the end of our units. How far away did we get away from the first couple of steps as compared to what we were doing at the end? So let's take some time at the end after we're done to kind of look at the data on that.
Okay.
So after this, what do we do?
So we have body paragraph structure after
Okay.
this. Yeah, so with body paragraph structure, we're really teaching the students how to put and organize their ideas together, right? So they're going to have a claim that starts off that body paragraph. And and that claim is gonna include a device, a rhetorical device, right? So that's like what they're gonna tie everything to in their body paragraph. So they have that claim, and then they have to give us context before they go into their evidence. So they do context to evidence, put in their piece of evidence from the speech itself, and that piece of evidence should have a device in it. And then after that, they are giving us their justification. We kind of use the words justification or commentary. And a technique we would use to get them to write better justification, to go from summary to analysis, is we would actually have them create questions about that piece of evidence that they pulled. And when they create those questions, they then answer those questions, and by answering those questions, they're automatically in analysis versus summary.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good. And that will lead us into the limitations part, because I'm kind of curious at the data as we looked at the data. And if you could do me a favor, can we look at the data real quick and tell me what percentage of the glows was this rhetorical essay. I'm sorry, grows of this rhetorical essay. How in what areas are we not doing so well?
It's the commentary, and
Okay.
we're probably looking at a good, maybe 60% of weak commentary.
Yes.
60 to,
Okay.
it's a high
Yeah.
number, and it's
Okay.
mainly due to their unfamiliarity or the depth of analysis that they're using in identifying the rhetorical situation.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of context that they may not understand, and the big pieces of the puzzle that they're missing. I think one area of data that we can look at moving forward is right after we teach them rhetorical situation, we have them practice that on their own. We review it and go back and say, what did you miss? Because this is what you should have seen.
Okay.
This is the part of the rhetorical situation that should have tipped you off about certain things, and did
Right.
you catch it or not? And if not, why? Because they've never written at this level before, they've never analyzed at this level before, so it's a bit surface.
Okay.
And we need to tap into their awareness of the depth of analysis they're having to reach.
Yeah.
Okay. So the awareness of the why, huh?
Well, rhetorical analysis is I would say, a newer type of writing for
It
them
is. It's completely
when they
new.
get to us. Like, they don't do a whole lot of rhetorical analysis before us. You know, you hear a lot of argumentative, persuasive, informational type of essays that happen,
Yeah.
narratives, things like that, but when they get to the rhetorical analysis, it's kind of a new concept overall for them.
Well, and they touch on Ecotipus logos in E2, but there's nowhere near the depth of analysis that goes on with rhetorical analysis.
So do you think, like, in some of the data that we received back is a reflection of them doing more persuasive concepts in their writing, or
Definitely, because.
Yeah.
Is that
because of
affecting?
EOC, yes, definitely.
because they're drilled with that EOC
Yes.
concepts. So real quick question, you already started talking about the limitations, and I really want to hit on that. Real quick question, do you guys do any kind of structured writing where the kids have, I know we kind of mentioned anchor charts before in the past, but something where they have structured writing to organize their ideas?
Yes,
Yes.
with their thesis, we give them a formula for their thesis that's tied connectly to the rhetorical techniques and author's purpose. And then when Mrs. Andrews was talking about the body paragraph structure, we use graphic organizers.
Okay, graphic organizers.
And that provides each section for each portion, like providing the claim with the rhetorical device, with the context. Then there's even a section for the questions they have to create, and then there's another part of the organizer where they answer those questions for the analytical commentary.
Yeah, and you know, even though the graphic organizers are great, one of the limitations we have with it, though, we need to work on is,
Okay.
we need to have them actually take that stuff and put it together so they can visually see it together, because the graphic organizer has it broken up for them, but there's something to be said about taking the broken parts, right, and putting the pieces together so
Yeah.
they can see the whole picture.
And they're gonna engage in some revision and editing when they do that too.
Yeah.
I think when they, for some reason, there's a bit of a disconnect between the graphic organizer and them actually composing their own body paragraph, so that'd be a great addition.
Yeah.
Okay. This is all interesting information, because I know I can already, some of the POCs that I said in English too, I can see how the students are having difficulty transitioning or kind of relating what they learned in English too and what you all are trying to do in English too. So this is great information. So real quick, the body paragraphs, how much time did y'all spend on this?
1 to 2 weeks?
Yeah, I would say so. Probably closer to 2 weeks.
Okay.
I would say.
All right. Do we have another part of the scaffold?
No.
Okay, great. All right, this is some very interesting stuff. So what we want to do is take what our TEAC is, how we scaffold it, and look at some more limitations. Now, you guys are kind of seeing it already. I think this is great.
Yeah.
But more importantly, like, let's just talk about this limitation that I've noticed so far. Which part of this in the Blues taxonomy do you think hits on the more rigorous understanding of the TEAC?
That's an excellent question. So we,
Yeah.
what it blooms is the top is creation, create,
Yeah.
and then there's analysis,
Mm-hmm.
and then what's under analysis?
Understanding.
Well, honestly, an analysis is the biggest
Right.
chunk.
Right.
It's that rhetorical situation, and it's, for example, they're at this age in their development, these are teenagers, they're very self-centered, and that's, if we're talking human development, that's
Yeah.
natural, that's where they're supposed to be, and where
Uh-huh.
they're supposed to be. But they've gotta learn to take themselves out of their own understanding and put themselves into the context of the argument. Who is the speaker? What is their identity? What are their limitations? What are their,
Okay.
you know, what is it that they are having to overcome? What are the obstacles and leverage that speaker is using? And for them to place themselves into somebody else's shoes in a different time period, it has to be an intentional act on their part and a critical thinking act on their part in order to really understand the argument.
Right, so that's their foundational skills, and so, yeah, if they don't understand the foundation of it, then the rest of the writing falls apart.
I see.
Yeah, cause it's very step by step for rhetorical analysis, so you can't have, a weak foundation, and
Okay.
then continue to, I would use the analogy this year that we're building a rhetorical analysis house together, right? And
Uh-huh.
I'm like, I'm gonna lay the foundation, and then we're gonna, go to the next part, and, and stuff, and so I would say it to them that way, and I'm like, but if we don't do well laying the foundation, the
Okay.
house is gonna fall apart,
Uh-huh.
right, so.
And that your concepts, your ideas here is excellent, especially with our EB. So like your body paragraphs and your graphic organizers go a long way with our emerging bilinguals, which, as you all know, has been growing by the numbers extremely. And so, that's awesome. And then your analysis to give that picture of the foundation really helps those visual learners. So we're
Yeah.
really looking at the different types of learners visually, and that mental picture is definitely gonna help them. So
Yeah.
my question here, and I wanna make sure, I'm gonna ask you all a question, but I'm gonna go ahead and put one of the limitations, because I know you mentioned that the kids have to be intentional with the time period. So would that be a limitation of that time period and what kind of kids we have here at Fulshire High School or at our high school? Do you see a problem there? Think of your own kid and think about them always on TikTok. I know your son is a teenager now and he's always on TikTok. And you think,
I'm gonna be completely honest. There are a lot of things that we are no longer allowed to discuss in the classroom. Very
Okay.
real life applicable issues that we are not, as instructors, allowed to address anymore.
okay,
For political reasons.
uh-huh,
But these individuals giving these speeches, MLK being in jail,
yeah,
arrested for
it's
unjust
going on
law.
today, yeah.
Exactly, so teaching them to acknowledge and recognize real life issues, giving them permission to discuss them in an environment that is very straightforward and very analytical, giving them permission to feel and connect with the emotion of the speaker as to why they are saying these things,
Mhm.
right? Votes for women. We analyzed the speech by, what is her name?
Sonia Sotomayor.
Oh, and Sonia
Yeah.
Sotomayor, so
Yeah.
a Puerto Rican
Yeah,
judge. So we have to create an environment where they know they're safe to discuss and acknowledge the reality of these speakers' identities. Because
Absolutely.
they struggle
Yeah.
with that. If it's, we read a speech about a former slave who is trying to, these are real life people and real life issues. And they are so gun shy
okay.
about speaking about these issues that they're missing the nuance of the purpose behind what these speakers are saying.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because we have to come together and collaborate on ways around that. And, we have to be in compliance with LCISD with our school district, but at the same time, we need to, make it relatable, like you said, we gotta tap into these issues. And so as we're going through there, the limitations of that era is happening today, but they just can't connect to that era. So we definitely, when we come back to possibilities, we definitely need to and you're spot on with that.
Yeah.
And then the other limitation that I just want to point out is, if we want to get to this higher level critical thinking analysis part, would you think it's difficult to get successful data assessed from an assessment that's only 1 to 2 weeks? You think that's a sufficient amount of time to be able to create rhetorical essays?
You know, I definitely think it could be extended, right? There's so much that goes into rhetorical analysis. I tell my students it's layers. There are layers there, and we have to peel back and find all of the layers, because you're not just looking at devices, you're also looking at the rhetorical situation, you're also looking at ethos, pathos, logos. It's all these layers coming together to show a purpose and an intention from a speaker, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so to be able to really find all those layers, yeah, I would say you would need more time.
We assess after each scaffolding. Like we assess after the ethos, pathos, logos, rhetorical situation. We assess after the model annotation, and we assess after each scaffolding stage. I think, just based on this conversation, I think some areas to deal with intervention is to model more, and then review our assessments with them. Go over again, like, what did you miss? Model more the annotations. You do it, let's look at what you did. And I think I'm already kind of moving into intervention, but
No, this is great.
but conferring with them after each stage to address, because again, if your foundation is weak, all these cracks are being created and your house is gonna fall over. So we've gotta start dealing them at each stage with more so stronger modeling and reviewing after the assessment with conferencing,
Yes.
which is difficult because of time and numbers.
Yes, we have high student loads, and so student conferencing is pretty difficult for us to do. So we've had to rely on more like AI feedback and things like that because of our high student numbers. So that's something we need to figure out. How do we give kids that valuable feedback that they really, really need?
But I will say the AI feedback isn't even as useful as it could be, because we're using Writable, which is TEKS based, versus the AP Lang skills, which though they are in Writable, but we're talking about college level skills here now, and Writable is more geared towards K-12.
Right.
So, but we're working with what we have.
Yeah, exactly.
Guys, I think we can come up with some really good solutions. We're already starting to hit on it. I'm glad that we're laying this out, because I think you guys see some of the issues and the breakdown of what's going on. You know, like we should need to spend some more time in here. That would give students more possibility to becoming more successful, have better student outcomes, and as well as you give them more time for writing and reflection. I can see how if you're not connected and you have a disconnect to the material, it's gonna make it that much more difficult to write.
Yeah, so I would say one of the interventions would be looking at stuff that's not just older texts, older speeches, that kind of stuff, because students have a hard time relating to those older speeches during an era they were not a part of, right? And so maybe looking at different types of media, even like TikToks or short video clips, because you can analyze anything.
Right.
So
And TED Talks just
TED
doing
Talks,
those.
yeah.
What's the other one by Meta? Instagram. You said TikTok, and so Instagram. I think that's great. So like, I know that English 1, they're using Learning Express, and then Learning Express is another social media that just kind of gives them the different videos to in the different topics.
Learning Express.
So I'll put here. Yeah, this is great. I think that's gonna help them be better writers, because I'm guessing at the AP level, we know how to write. Those students know how to write. They're writing complex sentences, compound sentences. I looked at the data from the beginning of the semester, and I know that the data reflected that a great understanding of control of the writing. So now they just need stuff to write about. So this is a great idea. I think we need to take that into our action plan and spend some time putting it in our action plan so we can have kids work on it. So our next one, so next step from, we said Instagram. So what about, we want to be able to extend time. We want to break down in our grading. We want to tap into the issues. What about the graphic organizers? Is there something that we can provide for graphic organizers, something more concrete that the struggling students, how many % of struggling students do we have in the writing?
Gosh. I don't know, would you even go the halfway mark, or,
No, I mean, not with truly struggling.
yeah,
Not with truly struggling. Truly struggling, I would say maybe a third max, maybe 30% max are really, really struggling.
yeah.
Okay.
Um,
So how can we bridge that gap? Where can we bridge that gap and what can we do?
I think what might be helpful is maybe some peer work, some peer assessment, peer review,
Yes.
that maybe some peer checklists might help peer conversations.
Checklist, I like it.
Yeah, I think it always helps students to be able to see somebody else's work and
Mhm.
get feedback from another student.
Right, so just using the Kagan strategies of grouping
Yeah.
students,
Mm-hmm.
then that would help place them with a stronger student. And I think actually some self-assessment, some self-checklists
Mhm.
would be helpful. Again, making it a little bit more concrete as to what am I supposed to have? Do I have this check? Do I have this check? Or what am I missing?
Okay.
Might be a little bit more useful.
I think that's great. That's one of the things I was gonna hit on, because I know that peer editing, peer reviewing, peer discussions, I know you all do a lot of talk, retalk, right? I think that's excellent. And some of the struggles that other teachers have is being able to delegate those conversations. And so like in y'all's case, Keegan would be a great place, and I'm guessing we didn't use that before. Now, like if you use that Keegan and be able to be intentional with who you're grouping people, will be a good solution of being able to level up your writing.
Right.
That's great. Okay, I really want to get to the action plan. Is there anything else? Do we have another possibility or intervention that we can bring forth? Oh,
The
the
student
comments,
models.
the student model.
We actually didn't, we use student models, we didn't
Yeah.
actually add that into that. But we find the released AP student samples,
Samples model.
both the high scoring and then the lower scoring. So we will have the students look at the higher scoring and assess, what do you see that worked? And then we'll give them a lower scoring and say, what would you suggest this student does to increase their score?
Yeah,
Right.
we make them tie it to the rubric, right? So
Okay.
they have to see, okay, how did their thesis meet the language of the rubric? How did their evidence and commentary meet the language of the rubric?
Okay, very nice. The student sample models and the vocabulary is gonna be crucial in being able to help some of those students. That's great. All right, I think we can take these ideas. These were excellent ideas. I would also just kind of recommend that it's important to, like your scaffolding is done right, but it's how we chunk it is probably another idea, right? Because I know that reading Martin Luther King can be difficult at times, trying to knock it all out in one
Yes.
sitting. So what do y'all think about chunking the material?
I think we can definitely review our anchor reads. I know that I've used shorter text in the past as far as Greta Thunberg's speech. I've used Malala's Nobel acceptance
Malala,
speech.
yes, wonderful.
But there are some other shorter texts that we can definitely use as anchor text.
I think so, and then just breaking it down paragraph by paragraph, and even creating a graphic organizer that separates out
Yes.
the speeches, paragraph by paragraph.
Great, awesome. So let's take this and let's see if we can make an action plan moving
Yeah.
forward into y'all's classrooms.
Okay.
Wonderful. Let me grab a chair and then I'm just gonna check to see the time on that video. we're at 34, so.
Perfect.
Let's just work on one action plan at a time. Okay, so with this, all this information and data, what would we say would be a good action plan moving forward?
So good action plan moving forward. You know, I would say we would need to, in the beginning, be more intentional with the rhetorical situation. Because like we were saying before, that is the foundation of what we're doing, and it's important not to rush it. And it's important to give them multiple opportunities to practice it, but also I think maybe we need to practice it with different types of media.
Now that you say that, and after we mentioned the TikTok, I think if we paired a certain speech from a certain time period with a current piece of media that addresses the exact same issue, then I think we could show them that more modern media and talk about it. What is this speaker struggling with? What is the problem they're dealing with? What is the claim they're making? What are the strategies they're using to try to convince the audience to agree with them? And then we can pull up then the older piece of text. And now let's talk about this text. Let's talk about the context. What's going on historically? Are you seeing some parallels between the same types of issues? And now how is this distinct from this particular more modern piece? And that's gonna help them connect to the history that they are so far removed from.
Yeah, because half the battle is getting them engaged.
Yes.
So.
I mean, I think that's wonderful. I think that's great. I think that's gonna play high dividends in your classrooms, especially if we can get y'all some poster boards. We'll put them in the classrooms, and if you write them in big letters, and so now they have this reference chart of information.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Great.
Perfect.
Hey guys, I really appreciate it. I look forward to going into your classrooms and observing the results of this PLC. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Awesome.